welcome to this episode of GOP Rebuttal. I'm Sean Abbey, reporting here from Beacon Hill, and today we'll be sitting down with 6th Plymouth District State Representative Daniel Webster and asking him about pension and transportation reform packages. Representative Webster, thanks for coming back on the air with us today.
Anytime, it's always good to be here.
Let's get down to it. A few weeks ago, your colleagues and yourself ended up passing and reforming our state pension system. What were those changes, and what can your constituents take from this?
Well, I wouldn't call the bill a reform bill. I think what we accomplished by passing the bill was we closed some loopholes that needed to be closed within our pension system. We got rid of some of the abuses that the public has been rightfully upset about. We ended the practice of providing pensions to public employees who earn less than $5,000 a year. We got rid of the king for the day provision, which would allow someone to assume, for instance, their boss's job and go out on a disability and have their disability calculated at the higher rate of pay that they would have earned while they were working in a higher position or in their supervisor's position. We stopped the practice of double dipping, whereby we could have people who had worked for the Commonwealth collect a pension under the state system and then potentially had been drawing a pension under the authority system as well. Now, these reforms don't have significant cost savings, yet they send a good signal to the public that we recognized at the State House that we need to make some changes in some of the abuses that were going on in our pension system and some of the unintended loopholes that our public employees were taking advantage of at the expense of the taxpayers.
What would you consider, were there any weak points, some points that you just thought shouldn't have been in there in the first place?
No, I wouldn't say that there were any weak points to this particular piece of legislation, but I view this as step one in the reform process for pensions. And this will have been a failure if the Democratic leadership doesn't come forward with a bill before the House and the Senate within the next few months that really tackles the cost issue involved in the pensions that we provide for our public employees here in Massachusetts. And we've been told that such a bill will be coming down the road sometime in the fall after the Pension Reform Commission makes a recommendation or issues its report for our review, at which time we can think about how we're really going to start to save the taxpayers of the Commonwealth some money in this area.
Good. Also, you guys reformed the transportation system. What were the entailed in the reforms, and why did you ultimately vote no on this?
I didn't ultimately vote no on the bill. I do, however, want to point out that this is real reform in this legislation, and that there are some significant cost savings to the taxpayers of the Commonwealth in this legislation. We've taken a number of agencies that have duplication of effort and put them together so that we can eliminate certain positions that were duplicating jobs here in Massachusetts. There are advantages for sharing equipment and things of that nature between agencies, and those will certainly save the taxpayers of the Commonwealth money. The reason that I voted against the bill, however, is the structure that the bill created is really a mega authority. And when I say that, what happened in this legislation was we took the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority, the MBTA, the Department of Transportation, the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and several other smaller transportation agencies, and we combined them into one super authority. And this super authority is composed of a 5-member board. The members are appointed by the governor. They're staggering appointments, and they cannot be removed from the commission without cause. And as many of us remember, we went through this issue, or former Governor Swift went through this issue a number of years back when she tried to remove 1 or 2 members from the Turnpike Authority, and the SJC ruled that that couldn't happen without cause. So what my concern is that we have a 5-member mega authority that's making all of our public policy decisions about transportation here in Massachusetts, and yet the voters really have no say in how their transportation system is being run. In my view, what should have happened was we should have had a transportation system composed of all the agencies and the authorities which we know have failed over the years, the MBTA and the Mass Turnpike Authority. Those should have been combined into the Department of Transportation. They should have been, those that run those divisions should have been answerable to the Secretary of Transportation, who's ultimately answerable to the governor, who is ultimately answerable to the voters.
Do you think that's going to happen anytime soon? Do you think there could be a chance that we can switch over to that style of reform?
Unfortunately, I don't. I think the vote was overwhelmingly in favor of the new transportation proposal. I think the only way that we would see a shift back with the authority of our transportation to the executive branch under the governor and the Secretary of Transportation would be if this 5-member authority fails. I truly hope that's not the case. I hope that now that all is said and done and that the legislation has been enacted, and as I said a few minutes ago, there is real cost savings, that the structure that we've put in place to manage our transportation system in Massachusetts does succeed. But I have some concerns that history may repeat itself and we may find and continue to see some of the abuses that we've seen under the MBTA and the Mass Turnpike Authority.
Well, thank you for coming on the air today, and thank you for taking some of your great time to sit down and talk with us. We'd love to come back and talk more about the rest of the legislative agenda that's going on here in the State House.
My pleasure, and I look forward to coming back again.
Thank you. Tune in to this episode of GOP Rebuttal. For more videos like this one, go to www.PlymouthCountyGOP.com. Plymouth County GOP, I'm Sean Nabby. Thank you.